Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Oh, yeah, baby. We're talking playoffs. Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast. What a game. What a finish. What a crazy season this continues to be. And it's not done yet. Welcome to our live Texans-Colts postgame show. No, I'm not on caffeine. I'm not on any drugs. This is just the Texans drugs. Shaun, welcome aboard. Shaun Bijani with Sports Radio 610, brother.
Incredible win, man. It wasn't feeling very good in that second half, and the Texans just absolutely couldn't figure out a way to stop the run and the Colts from just moving down the field. But they somehow, man, pulled this out. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of clutch players in the second half. Dalton Schultz has got to be right up there. I mean, they needed another guy to step up aside from Nico Collins in the second half, somebody to be able to be a viable option for CJ Stroud to continue to move the ball. He was that. Andrew Beck made a big play, the touchdown. Eric Saubert had a big play on an incredible drive. Just an incredible team effort, to be honest with you, in a game which was probably one of their most sloppiest games that we'd seen in a long time with all the penalties. I mean, they'd shot their right foot off in the first half with a shotgun and decided to go ahead and waste the left one in the second half with all the penalties. But somehow they make it out of here and they're going to the playoffs, baby, with a chance to be AFC South Division champions for the first time in a long time. It's incredible.
Yeah, they were so clean last week, and then all the penalties in this one. But yeah, you're right. They made it a little bit more difficult than it needed to be with all the penalties. Larry says, what a big W. Thank you, Larry, for joining us. William says, incredible win for an incredible team. CJ Stroud, 20 for 26, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. We saw him do this a year ago in a big situation against Georgia. Just unbelievable under pressure. 0 interceptions, only threw 5 picks in 15 games in his rookie season. Ridiculous, especially with the yardage and the yards per throw. Only 3 games, Shaun, in his rookie season did he actually throw an interception. That's it.
Yeah, it was a great season for CJ Stroud. I mean, it was unthinkable. You didn't expect this. I mean, I don't think you expected anything close to this type of individual performance. There's going to be plenty of time. We've got an extended season now to talk about this stuff. We have a whole off season. Whenever that begins, we'll have an opportunity to talk about it. But going back to the preseason, if you go back and have those discussions, listen to them rather, what were the expectations by this team? You couldn't get anything solid, but I think you and I both agreed that, this team should have an opportunity when you get to weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, they should be the team in the right side of the column that says in the hunt. And you know what? They'd been that team all season long, but they'd done it in a way that cleaned football, disciplined football, heads up football, at times very sexy football, offensively and defensively. They did it in ways that you really just didn't imagine them doing it. And now it doesn't matter. You've exceeded all expectations and maybe at least met yours if you're the team, and you're going to play extra football now.
Yeah, and let's not forget, CJ Stroud did this tonight. We kind of have to remind ourselves what the Texans were handcuffed with. No Woods, no Tank Dell. The top three of his top 4 receivers out. Noah Brown out as well. We found out a couple of days ago. Woods, we found out right before game time. 3 of his top 4 receivers out. 3 of his 5 starting offensive line out. He had a rookie center playing guard. He had a trash heap center playing center. He had a right tackle that, was barely on the roster in camp playing right tackle. He had his number 1 running back basically had a terrible year. He was relying on his number 2 running back to carry the load. He had no defensive ends. The two of the best defensive ends in the NFL were out for this game, Shaun. There was so many injuries for the Texans to overcome. And in my opinion, this game wouldn't have even have been that close, because if Will Anderson and John Grenard would have been out there, the running game wouldn't have gone off the way it did. We always talk about what those two guys do as pass rushers. They're very good against the run as well. And that matters. And you could tell that they missed those two guys setting the edge, doing the things that they did against the run. I mean, what the Texans were able to do despite all of that stuff, and then going out on the road. I mean, just get in the comments. What do you guys think? But Shaun, that to me, that's a big story tonight. And we forget because we're just used to all these injuries. It's the way it's been.
Yeah, it's the way it's been. I mean, you've almost become desensitized to a degree, but at the same time, I mean, you just went through it all pretty much. At some point, it breaks. At some point, it's just something that you just can't withstand, and you get contributions from guys at times when your backup's against the wall because of injury, because of circumstance. Tonight, it being you're on the road in a win-or-go-home game against the team that you've historically struggled to beat at their place, though you've had more success here, in the last 5, 6, 7 years up there. But you get contributions from guys like Majai Sanders tonight, Derek Barnett probably thinking the whole game, man, I didn't sign up to play 60 snaps, on the edge for you guys. Like, 30, 40% of the snaps here or there. Hey, I'm good. But I mean, man, he came up huge. Blake Cashman's probably one of my players of the game tonight, especially in the second half. You go back and you look, that moment in the game in the second half when Jerry Hughes goes out with an injury, the Colts are just dinking, dunking, run, dink, dunk, run. And after that Hughes injury, which, there was an injury timeout, D'Amico Ryans, Matt Burke, and that defense, they figured something out. They changed something, because at that point in time, Jonathan Taylor, I think, was like 21 carries for like 165 yards. Thereafter, I don't know when he ended up with the last handful or so, but he ended up for like 4 more carries were like -3 yards, and the Texans continued to get stop after stop after stop on third down. They figured something out. The game within the game within the game. D'Amico Ryans won that, and ultimately he won the war tonight.
Yeah, let's unpack this. Real heads up to David Williams, Houston Texans, Dave, Ant Network, all commenting. Keep it coming, guys. Let's unpack it. In Colts' first possession, there was an early hands to the face penalty on Desmond King. Gets their drive going, 11-play, 56-yard drive. But Minshew, with an incompletion, makes the Colts settle for the field goal. But the Texans' first offensive play, Shaun, play action. Oh, boy. I've been waiting for this one all year. This reminds me of old school Gary Kubiak, Matt Schaub, the play action to start the game, go deep. This is when you hit him with the big play. Schaub didn't have that arm. Stroud does.
I don't know that Gary Kubiak, though, did it with a 3 tight end set on the first play of the game on the road in that kind of situation. I mean, that was incredible. 3 tight end set, bunch formation, and the safety, I can't remember who it was by the Indianapolis Colts, but it was all set up because Schultz, is running that little shallow crosser, freezes the safety, which whoever that safety was had no business even concerning himself with Dalton Schultz and leaving that corner solo over the top alone on Nico Collins. He should have gone for help because Schultz was preoccupied with with linebackers who just killed that crossing route. Probably should have gotten a flag, to be honest with you, on defensive pass interference or something. And that's what really allowed that play to break open. I mean, at this point in time, Nico matched up man on man against anybody. He's killed man coverage all season long. Nico's going to win. And with the arm of CJ Stroud, he can just go get it. I mean, it's literally a foot race. I'm going to run faster than you, longer than you, because my quarterback's going to put it out there. And that's exactly what CJ Stroud did to blow the top off on that first offensive play of the game for the Texans. That was monumentally huge.
Nico basically put the entire Texans receiving core on his back. Nine catches, 195 yards, more Nico later on, but Colts go 3 and out thanks mostly to a Christian Harris sack on a blitz. Well designed in the first 2 possessions. Harris, 1 quarterback hit, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, 2 solo tackles. He was everywhere early. The Texans' next possession shut down on a 3rd and 1. Singletary stacked up behind the line. What do you think of that play call, Shaun? I mean, did you like just going up the middle? I mean, we've tried all sorts of things on short yardage, and Texans just, with this offensive line, they're just not going to be good on short yardage until they can get guys healthy next year.
I mean, they don't have road graders, and they've got guys playing out of position. They've got second, third, maybe 4th tier guys starting for them. And I'm really saying that about Michael Dieter, the center, just because that's what they thought of him all season long. I mean, he was after not even a thought to at any point in time play left guard for this team. They waited until multiple injuries and taken 3 different starting centers out before they had called his number. So they're just not road graders.
Yeah, they were getting that. You watch that again and the push, considering how many guys that Colts really had up front, that the defensive lineman really pushed, and Tunsil was even pushed back, and he's just not. As much as I like Tunsil, and we're going to talk more Tunsil a little bit later, but as much as I like him, he's not a really good run blocker. So the next Colts possession, Texans D forces a punt thanks to good coverage by Houston Carson and Stingley on 2nd and 3rd down. Those 2 guys doing the job. The Texans offense stopped at midfield with their next shot, but the defense responds with another quick Colts punt. So the Texans offense back on the field trying to get something going, but on a 4th and short, Shaun, I mentioned Tunsil, the Pro Bowler, not the best game for him. His 2nd false start of the half.
Yeah, it was a false start on a 3rd and 5, and it just took you out of 3rd and manageable to 3rd and 10. And, the Texans end up not going for it, on a 4th and 3 at the Indianapolis 46.
It was not even a 3rd and 5. It was a 3rd and short. And it was basically on a short yardage, if I remember correctly, right? It was like because I
think it was I thought it was 3rd and 5. I think no, it was 3rd and 5.
Well, that was the first false start. The second false start was a 4th and short.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah,
you might be right. But it didn't matter. That was the one where Johnston ended up punting to the Colts 1 yard line, right?
Yeah. They get the punt there, and then the Texans D forces another punt. Offense gets it going again. Huge screen on 3rd and short to Nico, 29 yards to the 8. Nice play design, I thought, by Slowick on that one. The screen passes this year, Shaun, it's just night and day from what we've seen in the past. I mean, this is something that I've watched for the Texans for 20 years. I've watched screen passes mostly fail for 20 years. And for the first time, you feel like Slowick designs these screen passes that actually work. And there was a couple of really good ones in this game.
Well, the difference is this year, the idea, you don't have to go right to it. It's not you get the snap and then zip it over there for the screen. There's a little hesitation. And if you don't have any hesitation to where you make that defense think even for a millisecond, then you're setting yourself up for failure, really. There has to be a slight little bit of hesitation to allow your blocks to get out there. And so if you go a little pump, or if it's just a little slow in getting it out there and a little hitch step, maybe back and release, by the receiver to catch that screen, it's a beautiful thing because you allow the necessary blockers, whether it be tight end, tackle, guard, to get out there, pick up those blocks. And you're always going to have to make, at least that first guy miss off of the screen, maybe the second guy, depending on how the block's set up. But to me, that's been the biggest part of the success for the screen game this year in a Slowick designed offense is just it's not so identifiable so quickly for a defense.
So Nico Collins with that screen pass, 5 catches, 129 yards in the first half. Unreal. They finished the drive with the touchdown to a wide open Andrew Beck. Beck was good there. There was a little issue later on in the game that he made things a little bit harder on that last drive. But right there, Andrew Beck got the job done, Shaun.
He's wide open. He's wide. It's just kind of uncanny, but it makes sense at the end of the day. I mean, look, Goodson was, the guy open out of the backfield on the last offensive play of the game for the Colts. There, he drops a sure first down on a 4th and 1 to basically end the football game for the Colts tonight. He'd caught 6 passes all year long. Eric Saubert for the Texans caught a big pass. It was only for 5 yards, but it was for a first down, early in that 12-play, 73-yard drive for that touchdown, or for the field goal, I guess it was.
No, that was a touchdown.
Was it a touchdown? Yeah, it was a touchdown. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like guys like Saubert, Beck, like the least thought of, maybe the least successful guys on both sides of the ball tonight ended up factoring in. And that's generally the way it's going to be. You dig deep. Hell, Johnny Johnson III was available tonight for the Houston Texans because Robert Woods, couldn't go in this game. I mean, you got to dig deep sometimes. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to use those guys. I mean, Xavier Hutchinson, was given opportunities tonight, and sometimes he made a play, sometimes he didn't make a play, but he wasn't a big part of the game plan. Mechie wasn't a big part of the game plan. The fact that the Texans were able to go Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, and Devin Singletary. I know he didn't even rush for 3 yards per carry, but still massive part of the game plan, and big props to Slowick and this offense for being able to utilize the only 3 dudes that everybody knew that you had to have to win this football game. Sometimes you were successful, sometimes you weren't, but you went out and did it anyway. I mean, that takes massive balls, but it also takes execution, and the Texans executed beautifully tonight.
David Williams says Nico's a number 1 receiver. That's what I keep telling people. He's a number 1. Like, we got to draft the number 1 receiver. No, we don't.
Why don't we have to talk about this 18 weeks after the fact? Nico Collins has been a number 1 receiver from day one. From day one. I mean, he hadn't been the sexiest guy. He's not Tank Dell. I mean, just because a guy does what Tank Dell does doesn't mean he's not, a number 1 receiver. He's been your go-to guy. He's had the most catches. He was your go-to guy early on with Robert Woods on 3rd downs. Who do you go to when you need a first down? More times than not, you're going to go to your number 1 receiver. Who do you go to more times than not to take the top off, to stretch the field, take shots? Your number 1 receiver. That's been Nico Collins all season long, with or without Tank Dell.
Dude, he's sexy to me. He's wearing Victoria's Secret. He's got some perfect perfume. The guy catches everything. He makes deep catches. He makes short catches. He makes big runs after catch. He makes big catch. He doesn't drop much of anything. He catches the football, and that's what I care about.
Yak.
So yeah, he's incredible. Just, get, as long as he's on the field, that's the only thing you ever worry about him is injuries. But, he was only out, very short time this year.
This Beck touchdown drive that we're talking about, where he ended up wide open on that 8-play, 57-yard touchdown drive. During that drive, Nico Collins turned a 1-yard screen into a 29-yard gain because he mowed over 2 freaking dudes and damn near a third if he wouldn't have stepped out of bounds. It's just, that's what he's been doing all season long. And you saw it time and time and time again tonight, just as you had, the previous, 14, 15 games that he played for you this season. It's just an underrated, player, because he was on a crappy team in a crappy vanilla middle school, designed offense last year with Pep You Suck Hamilton, who for whatever reason 5 years ago was an up-and-coming head coaching candidate, and whose eyes, I don't know. But
Davis Mills he was missing 5 and 10 yard patterns by 5 and 10. I mean, I kept saying it last year. The guy was not accurate. Nico catches everything as long as it's within distance of him catching it. If it's 5 yards over his head, he can't catch the.
Well, yeah. I mean, when a 35-year-old quarterback who's put on 30 pounds in the last 5 years and, can't exactly, run around with the best of them anymore, Case Keenum beats you out for 2 pivotal games in the course of a season because your starter goes out due to injury. I mean, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
You're not a viable, starting caliber quarterback in the NFL, nor even a backup, at least in your coach's eyes. So there is that too. Yes.
Yeah, Davis Mills kind of probably wondering why he's taking shrapnel on a game where the Texans get the playoffs, and he wasn't even playing. But the Colts with the 2-minute drive for a field goal. A couple Texan penalties help a bit. Texans go conservative with 40 seconds and end up punting. But overall, great first half. Stroud, 151 yards, 2 TDs, great defense. But then the second half starts and it's bad. Singletary slips on a well set up screen. A Schultz false start pulls them back, and then a sack kills the possession. Then Jonathan Taylor with that 49-yard touchdown run. I got to ask you about that one, Sean, because Cashman, so he missed a tackle near the line of scrimmage. He didn't look healthy in this game. It's not the guy we've seen this year. I didn't think this was the Cashman I was used to.
I mean, it was afterwards, where Cashman really started kind of stuffing the run. I mean, you couldn't really say anybody looked great in the run game for the Texans. Outside of maybe the interior tackles. And look, more times than not, when you're running between the tackles, there's going to be problems, right? But with Tier Tart, Khalil Davis, Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, at times they had good moments in the ball game tonight. But look, up to that point when Taylor busted that 49-yard run, I mean, nobody looked good. I thought Blake Cashman ended up being huge down the stretch for the Texans. He ended up leading the team at 13 tackles tonight. At halftime, it was Denzel Perryman leading the team or Christian Harris rather leading the team with 6 tackles, I believe. And here comes Blake Cashman just doing what he does. Look, he's probably not healthy. He's probably not. But, at this point in time, who is 100% healthy? You get it. And that's why this win is so special. That's why this win is so huge, because all the repeated times you'd shot yourselves in the foot with penalties and the inability to stop the run. First time you allow any single rusher all season long to go over 100 yards on you, and it's Jonathan Taylor, the night where you absolutely needed to stop the run the most, you thought, and you didn't, and you somehow still win with being, the most penalized team within the game. Blake Cashman playing hurt, Will Anderson playing hurt, all these guys busted up, but then grinding out. Michael Dieter was limping around like a 65-year-old man out there in and out of the medical tent tonight. And I got to give it to him. He stuck it out, man. And he made some key blocks, down the stretch. It might only be for 3 yards, 4 yards, but it's putting the Texans in, second manageable, third and manageable situations. And that's what they're looking at. When they go in the film room, that's the kind of stuff that they're looking at. They know Dieter, who just got, banged up on the last couple of plays and bossed around. He comes out, sticks it together, takes on a double team and pushes a guy, 3 yards up the field to allow Singletary to go to work. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to be talking about. Guys, coaches are going to be talking about, players are going to be talking about. And that's what helped them win the game tonight.
Yeah, the injured guys inspiring everywhere. Tank Dell, he wasn't in Indianapolis. He had to go to the Cougars game early in the day because he needed to inspire the Cougars basketball team to blow the crap out of West Virginia in their first Big 12 game. So, man, injured Texans just showing up and providing inspiration everywhere. Jalen Petrie, he sells out on that run, Sean. Just out of control, flying into the line. I'm tired of Petrie at this point. I don't like that. I don't like the chances that he takes because more often than not, they're not working.
It's probably a 90% failure rate, if we're being honest. You don't call his name much. If you're a PA announcer in an NFL stadium, you just don't. Now he did make some plays tonight, and it was a lot, a couple of them particularly late. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that was just kind of the epitome of what his season has been. Really, if we're being fair, what his first couple of seasons in the NFL has been. He had a nice year last year, some interceptions, led the team in tackles, blah, 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 whatever, because he had to. The run defense sucked, and it was just a bad team overall. But look, more times than not, when you play with your head down, you're going to miss. You're going to swing and miss. I mean, he's literally like the Adam Dunn of the NFL. It's feast or famine. Very few and far between is this cat going to hit home runs, but he hit at least a couple of gappers tonight late, right? Where he made some big plays at the line of scrimmage to stop the run.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. I mean, just I kind of wonder. I want to check to see if he actually has arms because I don't see him using them when he tries to tackle guys.
Old
Anyway,
T-Rex arms.
yeah, he doesn't use them. Anyway, the Texans' next possession, quick 3 and out. Colts have momentum, but Texans get a break. Matt Gay hits the upright on the 57-yard field goal, and that helps a lot because Stroud then makes a couple of nice runs when the Texans get the ball. 3rd and short, Stroud tries to hit Hutchinson on that tough pass. It's incomplete, but Sean, even though the Texans settled for a field goal, I think the refs missed something on the Hutchinson pass because there were 2 penalties I saw. Number 1, they held him. Number 2, there was a face mask.
I didn't see the face mask. I thought there was a hold. I don't remember seeing the face mask.
Yeah, the guy when he he's trying to catch the pass and they were hitting him from all different angles. They grabbed his face mask or whatever. I mean, if nothing else, it's like it was either a face mask or it's a illegal hit to the head to a defenseless receiver. I mean, he's defenseless right there. So yeah. I don't get, it just like that, those were 2 big missed ones.
I actually thought he should have come up with that ball. He made a tough catch earlier in the game. His first catch of the game, it was through traffic, for maybe 4 or 5 yards, whatever, something up the middle, a little hitch route. He was fully extended, ball hit him square in the hands, and I know a hand came in late. If he gets it initially, he's probably pulling it down by that hand by the time that hand's coming in. It's just that's a play that, you know what, I'd be willing to bet you, Robert, that in 7 months, when you're in the heart of preseason, it'll be 7 months. It'd probably be around training camp, preseason. This guy's going to be better. He's good, man. Hutchinson's good. You could see it. That when Bobby Slowick talks about like everybody has really good to elite qualities, and we got to figure out like how to use them, how to exploit those. I mean, at least you're giving Hutch an opportunity. What Hutch is really good at is, sticking a foot in the ground and boom, getting upfield, fighting through contact, being that big physical force, kind of like a Nico Collins. I see some qualities there, but you got to catch the ball, and you got to learn to catch the ball in traffic. And that's what I think Hutch is really going to end up having to work on the most this offseason. And probably some route running where he doesn't have to make so many balls that difficult, right? I think sometimes balls can be a little bit more difficult when you fade into your route versus, hitting it flat, staying sharp, things like that make it easier on your team, easier on your quarterback, easier on yourself. So I think he's going to end up making plays, in the future for this Texans team.
All right, we're about to get to the good stuff. I will also add that 1 catch, 6 yards for Hutch in this game, 1 catch, 5 yards for Mechie in this game. Boy, if you don't get those 2 receivers back for the playoffs, it's going to be tough to win a game with. It can't be just all Nico. We're going to start to get to the teams that really know how to control one guy, if that's all you got. But let's get to the good stuff. Texans D continues to struggle in the 3rd. Colts drive with help from a personal foul on Desmond King. I thought it was a personal foul. There's nothing weird about that. Jonathan Taylor gets injured. Maybe that helps the run defense at that point because then the Colts are forced to kick a field goal. Game tied. Then the Texans put together the drive of the year. They overcome a CJ Stroud sack, a Andrew Beck holding penalty. Singletary finishes it off with the touchdown run. But Sean, there's only 2 plays we got to talk about in this drive, and really maybe just 1 play. There's 2 big throws to Nico. And that first one, brother, what? I'd given up. I thought he was throwing it away. I'm like, what? We caught it, huh?
I think CJ probably looked a little surprised on that one too, because, he's fading back, throws it off his back foot and just flicks it. And it looked like a Case Keenum throw. It is if Keenum had stepped up in the pocket and just put all the mustard, he possibly could have on that ball. And boom, Nico's Johnny on the spot, man. 14 yards, bada bing, bada boom. Followed up by boom, Schultz, boom, Singletary, all that stuff. You talked about, a penalty or 2 that they had to overcome. Hell, they overcame a 2nd and 20, a 2nd and 14, a 2nd and 13, They had a 3rd and 3 conversion on that drive. It was huge. You're not understating it when you say the drive of the year, biggest game, biggest drive at the time of the season for sure. And it ends in a touchdown. I mean, that was huge. And again, it cannot be understated. When the defense knows you got one cat, maybe two, I'll give Dalton Schultz his flowers, man, but you got two dudes that you know that you can really throw the ball to in the pass game, and you can hit them like that. 14 yards to Nico, and then boom, 9 yards to Schultz. A couple plays later, 23 yards to Nico again. And you put yourself in position to where you can lean in heavy to the run. You're down the goal line. I'm going to let Motor go to work. And he does. He eats. He gets that 3-yard touchdown run. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. When you're sitting first and goal and you need 3 yards for a touchdown, and you can do that, you could say, I'm going to give it to this cat and he's going to go score. But you're saying the same thing when you're on your own 35-yard line, and it's just, I've got to establish the run. I've got to do it. And 3 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards don't look great back there, but it's everything when you're in the red zone. And that's where the Texans really, I think, with Bobby Slowick tonight, flexed their muscle, dropped their balls a little bit, and said, you know what, we're on the road. This is our time. Let's go get it. We got to do it. And they did it. They seized it.
You mentioned Singletary. It's not going to look good on paper. 24 carries, 63 yards. But let me just say something about Devin Singletary. He got everything he could out of what he had. And the thing that Singletary does so well, and I made a big deal about this early in the season because Dameon Pierce was not doing it well. Singletary was waiting. He was holding. He was waiting for stuff to develop in front of him at times. He wasn't just running straight as hard as he could into a hole. He was taking his time when it was needed to. Sometimes there wasn't anything there immediately. And then he would wait. And then there was something he might get him 2 or 3 yards that he wouldn't have had because he waited for a couple of seconds. And really, that was the secret to Singletary. The only bad thing you could say about the last drive, Fairbairn picks the worst time of the year to miss his only extra point. Sean, was that on Mr. Reliable John Weeks with the snap, or was that on Mr. Reliable Kaimi Fairbairn with the kick?
Joe Buck was saying it was a high snap. I don't know. Like, if it's a high snap, maybe it throws the timing off just a hair. But Kaimi's been so calm, cool, collected. Doesn't matter if he's kicking from 54 or a little chip shot field goal or an extra point. Like, he's been in situations like this multiple times this season where CJ's gone and led 2-minute drives to win games, and you got to have extra points. 39-37 over the Bucks. 30 whatever it was to 30 against the Bengals. The week before. And there have been these kinds of games. The game early on against the Falcons, you score late and you take a 19-18 lead inside 2 minutes before Desmond Ridder, you allow him to do his thing. You needed Kaimi then. I don't know. Like, I saw the snap twice. They replayed it, and I didn't think it was a thing. Sometimes bleep happens, and bleep happened, tonight for Kaimi, and it was just going to be a hell of a deal. And it was that point where you're like, man, how ironic is this? If there were two things that you asked me, Bijani, what can you hang your hat on tonight? What do you feel the most confident in? Number one, I would have said Texans stopping the run. They're going to continue to do what they do. Well, boom. There goes my left foot. What's the other thing? Kaimi Fairbairn, Cam Johnston, special teams, nails. Cam took care of business tonight. Coverage took care of business tonight. Return game took care of business tonight. But freaking Kaimi Fairbairn, a dude that's won you games this season, has been the most consistent guy. Maybe he's even a guy who's franchised this offseason. Who knows? Misses a freaking extra point and it could cost you? Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this is football. This is the NFL. Of course it's going to happen this way. And then thank God it didn't.
Yeah, and you give him credit. He hit the 52-yarder like it was easy. So that was a big win, and 3 points, obviously more than the 1 point that he lost right there. And that's a big three. And that three is not something all the kickers in the NFL can do. Like it's that easy. And he did it. This last drive comes down to the fourth down drop. What else stuck out for you about this particular drive, Shaun? I mean, they moved it down the field again. The Texans get the fourth down. Minshew, could the pass have been a little bit better? Yeah, but it's Gardner Minshew. I mean, the guy was open. I mean, I guess you take the credit for that on the defensive side because you make him rush it just a hair.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, sorry, let me plug my computer and it's about to die.
By the way, Brian also asked, we're going to get to your question soon, Brian.
Yeah.
Where does the game stack up in Texans history? We're going to get to that in a second.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't wait to talk about that one. Look, I mentioned this. Goodson had caught 6 passes all season long. There's a reason why, if there was a veteran quarterback back there, maybe it's different for them. There's a reason why you don't trust a guy who's caught 6 passes all season long in a spot like that. A gotta have it moment, and you're going to throw it to Goodson. There's probably people having that conversation, but I'm going to say this. The Texans and Bobby Slowick, and they'd shown it a number of times this season. You trust a guy like Eric Saubert, a complete afterthought. You trust a guy like Xavier Hutchinson. He's going to get 1 play a game, maybe 2. He did tonight. John Mechie, same thing. There's certain guys you have to trust, but you're not going to trust them in big moments like that. If you flip the script, do you think C.J. Stroud throws a little bubble screen to Darian Gumbawale with the game on the line?
Could be Andrew Beck. That wouldn't surprise me. We've seen some strange calls to Beck.
Yeah, do you go naked bootleg, little floater over the top to Andrew Beck? I mean, I don't know. Gardner Minshew pulled off a freaking little pop on the 2-point conversion, a little pop pass earlier in the ball game. I just think hey, look, it worked. For the Colts, it worked. You got exactly what you wanted. You drew it up that way, wide open. I mean, he gets the first down and maybe +2 or 3 if he lowers his shoulder. He just thought about turning it up and lowering the shoulder and getting upfield before the ball even got there. Ball doesn't need to be perfect if you're throwing it to a guy that's used to, catching passes like that, a veteran guy where the ball doesn't need to be perfect. But dude's caught 6 passes all season long. Needs to be right in his chest. I don't know. It's a little bit of luck if you want to couch it that way, but it's also it's just also kind of like victim of circumstance, like I'm talking about. The guy hadn't been trusted all season long, and you put him in the biggest spot, with your season hanging in the balance, and he didn't come up with it. All
right. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about, and maybe you wanted to talk about Cam's ability to run out the clock, his speed. Was there more cutback that he could do in the end zone?
Did you see? Because the camera panned to D'Amico on the sideline after Cam ran out of the back right of the end zone. Before all that happened, during the timeout, Frank Ross, the special teams coordinator, there's a shot of him in the huddle, and he is just, got to do this. We're not doing this. I guarantee you, and D'Amico's right there next to Frank when he's telling him what to do. I guarantee you, Frank Ross was like, there's not going to be any time left on the clock. We're going to run this thing out. It's going to be fine. Cam knows what to do. We've practiced this. It'll be great. And Cam Johnson's ass, runs out the back right of the end zone on the shortest side of the field. If you zig or even include a little zag in there or run to the far side of the field, that back pylon of the end zone, there's no time left. And then they shoot to D'Amico after there's 1 second left on the clock, and D'Amico's like, man, what the WTF, dude? Like you said, there was not going to be any time left, Frank. That's all I was imagining going on in his head. And I'd throw a lot of money down that was probably the thought in the conversation between D'Amico Ryans and Frank Ross. That was definitely a thing. And then look, there was a thought. I was, on the free kick, Cam Johnson kicking from his own 20 The ball certainly should have landed at least at the opposition's 20. He boots it to the 10. To prevent something like that, I mean, skyrocket that bad boy, angle kick it to the back left or back right corner of the pylon, let your coverage team get down there as far as they possibly can, and just take away any possibility of a lateral. You pin them, use the boundary. The boundary's your friend. That's what I was thinking. It didn't work out that way, but the Texans, again, they executed when they absolutely needed to. They executed, and they got a little help. Thank you, Goodson.
All right, that leads to the last question, or the next question that we got. If anybody else has got questions, let us know. Where does this game stack in Texans history, Shaun?
I don't know. We could talk it through. I would say probably like immediately top 5. I have to say top 5. That's easy. That's a go-to because then we can talk our way through it. But I have to say it ranks really far up there because of where this team had come from the last 3 years. That's a part of the story. You can't ignore that. There are guys, impact players on this team right now. Nico Collins, that was a part of that build, if you want to call it that, during the lean years. He was a part of a draft during years in which you were purposely tanking to lose for draft picks. And when you get contributions from guys like that in games like this, with a franchise quarterback in the way that you got him, all that has to factor in. And it's a regular season game, but it's just the 9th time in franchise history where you'd won at least 9 games. It's the 5th time in franchise history where you've won at least 10 games. It's there's so many firsts. This is the first time a first-year Texans head coach, I think, had gone to the playoffs, right? DeMeco Ryans, his transformation has been incredible. It was a hope. It wasn't an expectation day one, and it became an expectation. You threw away house money because of it.
You say it's just a regular season game, but it was a playoff game. I mean,
it was at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, it was win or go home, but it's going to be looked at as, I mean, it was regular season game, and the second or third time you ever had to play 17 games in an NFL season, whatever it is. I mean, that is what it is. This game, I would imagine, if we're operating in a vacuum, it's probably going to be one of the most remembered by Texan fans if it stopped tonight. And this was the last Texan game ever. And you fast forward 10 years and you say, hey, most memorable games in Texans history. Go. Just because of the stage? Like, are you going to remember blowing a 24-point lead to the Chiefs just because it was a divisional round playoff game and that was as close as you ever felt to get into a Super Bowl at that point in time?
I'm going to go with the most memorable. Here's my most memorable wins, and I'm trying to figure out where I put this one in this group, but there's a couple of them that I just would put ahead of this one. Texans had never made the playoffs in their history. TJ Yates. And it wasn't like this one at the end of the season where you win and get in. This was a couple of games before the end, but it clinched the Texans getting in their first playoffs. TJ Yates at the end of the Bengals game on the road. You had no Matt Schaub. You had no Andre Johnson in that game. And he takes the Texans, I think it was like a 95-yard drive to win the game. Big plays all the way there. If you forgot about it, go back and look at it. Also on that list, the first Texans playoff game, the electricity of the crowd, the J.J. Watt interception, those two immediately. Now, another one that I thought was like huge because you thought it was going to go somewhere. In retrospect, it didn't go anywhere, but you thought you weren't going to win the Super Bowl, but this is going to be the first of many big games for Deshaun Watson when he beats the Bills. Yeah, when he beats the Bills. And then that Cowboys game, I mean, if you're not from Texas, if you haven't lived here your whole life, you don't understand, but beating them to open your entire franchise's history, being an expansion team with a bunch of expansion players and a rookie quarterback playing against the hated Cowboys. I don't care that it's not a playoff thing, but it's still as a Houstonian, as a Cowboys hater my whole life, like most Houstonians, that was a biggie. But I don't know where this one fits in yet.
It's not the biggest. I saw a lot of people talking about this like what if scenario, and there was a lot of look. I'm from Texas. Yeah, 1910. That's going to be the most memorable.
But it's in the conversation of the big ones.
Okay, fine, but it's not the best. Like the fact that it's in the conversation means you have a lot of work to do, and CJ Stroud needs to play in a lot of big games in the next 5, 6, 7 years.
The first playoff game to me is still the biggest one to this point. The first playoff win and the JJ Watt interception and just all of that stuff. And
JJ Watt in that Buffalo Bills game, that's probably 1 and 2. That's probably 1 and 2. If this would probably be 3.
Or in the top, it's in the top 5. I know that.
Easy. Yeah, easy. I mean, the fact that you've even referenced 19-10, this one tops that. Come on. Like 1910, every time something happens in the future, 1910 goes boop, boop.
Well, it's going to be 1910, and then our first Super Bowl is 2, and then from there on. No, you're telling me no.
To like some dork I saw on Twitter, it was like, I'm from Texas, 1910. It's always going to be 1910.
But it's still like the emotion of. I mean, just as a fan, the emotion of it was big, and this is not a playoff.
That was cool. You sucked that year though, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year.
Yeah, but that's the point of that. That's what makes it even more crazy is that you did it even though you were terrible.
Yeah,
and but
I'm glad we don't have to talk about it anymore. I want to talk about what was the final score of this game.
Well,
whatever it was, 23-19.
The thing is looking forward. And by the way, David says CJ Stroud Rookie of the Year. I think that was decided about like halfway through the season. I don't think he needed anything to do to cement it. But looking ahead, we got CJ Stroud, so we got a chance next week. We obviously we got to wait and find out who they're playing, all that stuff. If you want to go see who we want them to play, go back to our show in the middle of the week because we talked quite a bit about that.
Cleveland.
Yeah, well, he's kind of blowing. I'm trying to get people to click on the last show, Shaun. But here's the thing. What I need to do right now is I need somebody to go find Miyagi, and we need to do some of this stuff to get John Grenard and Will Anderson out there on an every down base because I would feel so much better. Forget the receivers. Those are the two guys that I want back in the lineup. I mean, those are the two guys that I feel like we got a shot because this defense can look pedestrian. I mean, this is a backup quarterback, and there were times that we made him look better than he should have looked. But the biggest thing is those two guys, everybody saw, again, I'm going to go back to it. Shaun, I don't know if you agree with me. Everybody talks about those guys against the pass, against the run. They've been really good too. And that's the thing. We don't look as good against the run without those two guys out there. I mean, we looked okay. We looked okay without them against the Titans, but it's a Titans team that had given in, and it's a Derrick Henry that just wasn't the same guy anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, but you're hoping that they beat the Jaguars tomorrow. At least I think most people with a brain are. You're hoping the Titans beat the Jags. You're hoping Vrabel, is pissed off and he has his guys ready to go tomorrow. I don't know. Like if you're saying like either or, who would you rather have? Would I rather have a healthy Jonathan Grenard, or would I rather have a healthy Robert Woods and Noah Brown? That's actually a tough one for me because I think the Texans defense and I think the edge is good enough to get the job done against the Cleveland Browns. I think it's good enough to get the job done against anybody, to be quite honest with you. I know Jonathan Grenard had 12.5 sacks this year, but to me, I'd rather have 2 more viable options for CJ Stroud offensively than I would just one guy defensively, I think. And I'm kind of talking this through because, if Will Anderson can progress and be more healthy this week, cool. That's good. Derek Barnett, Good. He should be fresh. He's only been playing for like a month and a half. Jerry Hughes got hurt tonight. Maybe that changes things. He's old. Now he's banged up. You got to trust in Majai Sanders now. And, if you slapped the 81 on him, he'd look just like a receiver instead of a defensive end. Look, JG, it'd be great to have him back. I don't feel good when you're without Robert Woods and Noah Brown. I felt uneasy about things tonight because if I'm the Indianapolis Colts and I'm Gus Bradley and I'm looking at this Texans team and I'm saying, dude, we know you're going to force feed Devin Singletary, Nico Collins, and Dalton Schultz the ball. We know if we play disciplined, just smart, heads up football, if we just do our job, do your job, we're going to be fine. And the first play of the game, it's a basic, just brain fart by the safety. He sees Dalton Schultz doubled by linebackers on a shallow crosser. He hesitates for not just a millisecond, but dude just froze like he saw a ghost and lets Nico Collins smoke that corner all the way down the field. I mean, that's just the kind of mind-numbing stuff. Like, you game plan, you spend time in meetings on that. Can't happen. I don't think a better team, and mind you, as intimidated as we all were about this Colts team, you were worried about this. It was a good football team, but they didn't have any more business making the postseason than you did if you're the Houston Texans, given how banged up you are. You go face a Bills and a Chiefs or a Browns team next week, they're not going to make those kinds of mistakes because they're better football teams. So for those reasons, I worry about how depleted this wide receiver core would be. I know it sounds crazy, we're fine without JG. I just think that's how valuable options are to CJ Stroud. It keeps the defense rather true to itself.
Yeah, because John Grenard, I think, is like a blue chip type player right now. And CJ Stroud can, it seems like you give CJ Stroud a piece of tape and some string, he's going to be like MacGyver and create a nuclear bomb on offense. So he'll figure something out.
Yeah, but he did it with two players, Robert. That's the thing. He did it with two players, and it's got to be talked about. The Texans ran the ball 24 times tonight with Devin Singletary for 63 yards, I think it was.
Yeah,
he ran it 24 times, and at no point in time did you ever say, Bobby's putting this game in Stroud's hands? You never said that because there was such a balanced attack with pass, boom, run, boom, pass. It was very balanced, and Bobby had to do it. And if this type of game is played week 7, week 12, we might be crushing the hell out of Bobby Slowick for, dang, why'd you run the ball so dang much with Devin Singletary? You should have passed the ball more. You should have looked around, should have done more bootleg stuff like that. It was important for Bobby Slowick to commit to the run the way that he did tonight, and for Motor to do what he did.
But there's another reason, and this is not going to change, by next week. The guys you're not getting back is the offensive linemen. And you also got to run because your offensive linemen are so bad that Stroud would get killed if he's throwing a lot at this point. He just, that's another part of this. That's why I say, the offense can only be so good. There's like a governor on it because of this offensive line, without question. So that's why I'm like, let's get Grenard back because, we always assume that, one guy like a Stroud or a Nico Collins or Tank Dell makes a huge difference to many guys on offense. But I think having Grenard back healthy, that's like going to do a down the line better defense all the way through. I think other guys get loose. I think Malik Collins might have more room to operate. Yeah. Khalil Davis, we don't talk about him. He's played pretty well considering, not only that he's had to play more often, you weren't expecting much of him, but also he's doing pretty well considering he's mostly played recently without Grenard and Will Anderson healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no question. Uh, defensively, before Jerry Hughes went down, like I felt very comfortable about, being without Jonathan Renard because, you know, the interior is so strong, so deep. I mean, Heinisch has really come on. The coaches are really liking what he's doing, by the way, and he had a pretty good game tonight, I thought. But between Heinisch and Tart, Rankins, Collins, and God, who else am I forgetting? Davis. Um, how do you get deeper than that? How do you get deeper than that? A couple of those guys just picked up in the last few weeks. Um, and then, the edge, yeah, it's huge. Eh, You probably need Grenard more going forward. But here's the thing. Collins, Schultz stops there, dude. Hutchinson and Mechie, you have an 18-week sample size. Slowick that's like the little dash of parsley, on the top of a meal. It's like, bam, it's like the emerald. Bam, that's it. That's all you get. You're going to get a little bit of bam, Mechie, a little bam, Hutchinson. It's not a major ingredient. You know what I mean? It's like, it's eye candy. Bobby Slowick. Let's just hypothetical universe. If Robert Woods is not available for you next week, if your receiver core is what it is right now, today, next week, you've got to find a way. You have to trust different dudes. If Johnny Johnson III is going to be active in your receiver core, then dang it, you got to trust him. You have to utilize him the same way that you would a freaking Tank Dell. Or if it's not Johnny Johnson III, Steven Sims. You have to trust these guys and put them in position because you're allowing a better defense, a more experienced defense to just zone in and shut down one or two dudes. You legitimately, if I take away this cat, I'd love to have seen it. If tonight the Indianapolis Colts just were hell bent, like you see on punt returns, where you put two guys on that exterior gunner. I'd love to have seen that. If they just put two dudes on Nico Collins tonight, what that offense would have looked like. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to force you to go anywhere else with the football besides Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, these two cats. So I just think if you're going to have healthy bodies, you got to be able. The way that DeMeco Ryans philosophically has managed and coached this team this year, I don't care if you're Majai Sanders, I don't care if you're a Tier Tart, I don't care if you're Kareem Jackson. I just scooped you up 2 days ago. You're going to play in 20 snaps. He uses dudes, right?
Yeah, and let's not forget, Nico had 9 catches in this game. 9. It wasn't like he had 20 for his 195 yards. He just had 9 catches. So and targets, 9 targets. So that means that it wasn't like Stroud was trying to force it to him every time or whatever. And other guys caught the ball, and there were other, but the Texans only threw it. He only threw it 26 times in the whole game. Yeah, that's it.
And Collins and Schultz caught it 14 times combined.
And he missed Schultz on a big one, just barely on one of those. And another one was a little bit high to Schultz, but that would have been a tough pass because if he had got it down, it could have been intercepted. But really, the only guy that just missed a lot of chances, I thought, was Hutchinson. He had 4 targets. One of those I remember he had no chance at. I'm trying to remember the other ones that he missed, but I remember there was one he was in double coverage and Stroud was getting rushed and he had to make a tough throw. Shaun, I was going to put this in because before we get anywhere close to closing it out, before I lose anybody, I just got to bring this up for just a second. It's 11:30 at night as we're recording right now. 24 hours from right now, 45 years ago, the Houston Oilers were flying home from a 34-5 debacle in the AFC Championship game. They turned the ball over 9 times in the AFC Championship game. It was a disaster against the Steelers. 45 years ago. And 45 years ago, in 24 hours, fans were at the airport. They lined the freeway. There was 40 to 50 grand in the Astrodome. And yesterday, I spoke to Mike Barber about that incredible moment in Houston sports history. And I can't imagine the Texans getting killed 34-5, embarrassing themselves in an AFC championship game, and people waiting at the airport, lining 610 all the way to NRG Stadium at midnight, and having 40, 50,000 screaming fans. And go listen to that interview with Mike Barber. We talk about Love You Blue. I ask him about Earl and Bum, and he tells stories about those guys and Kenny Stabler and Karl Mock and just that whole era. And of course, I asked him what he thought of the Oilers uniforms and the Tennessee Titans. And of course, I asked him, how do we get Love You Blue into D'Amico and the Texans? How do we get that sort of magic back? If it's almost impossible, but what to do? So go listen, please. I know a lot of you are Texans fans. I don't care about the Oilers. I wasn't alive. I don't remember them, but it's an incredible time in Houston history. It's the most incredible time in Houston sports history. It was more incredible than the championships. I can't explain it to you. It's almost impossible to explain it to you. That how could this be more exciting than the Astros championships or the Rockets championships? It just was. And if you go listen to them, you'll understand. Go listen to that interview.
Yeah. Love You Blue, man. Love You Blue. It's kind of like 1910 though, for me, because I was negative whatever years old whenever, that was going on.
You were just a little bitty 20 years old when 1910 happened. I think they could barely get you out of your incubator to put your head up next to the television set for 1910.
I'm 41, and before I'm 50, the Texans need to play and probably will have played more meaningful games than any team during Love You Blue ever will have or ever could have possibly dreamed to have played. That's what needs to happen.
2 AFC championship games, the only 2 AFC championship games in NFL history that happened in Houston, with the Houston team.
And it's going to be topped in 9 years. I hopefully it's topped within the next 9 years before I'm 50 years old.
God, I hope so.
Because if I'm fit, I swear, if I'm 50 years old and we're still talking about like the glory days of Love You Blue, like I'm going to want to scoop my eyeballs out and just my eardrums. Like I'm so tired. I've been hearing John McClane talk about Love You Blue since he was 50 years old. Like, get out of here. I don't want to hear this crap anymore. Like, start a new era. Let's get Houston Texans going in that direction and then have it be so great that you forget about it. You just leave it in the past. It's kind of like
you
your
can
ex-wife.
You can have two golden eras. Don't listen to him, guys. You can have 2 golden eras in a sports town for the NFL team. That can happen.
I don't want it to be the only golden era, is what I'm saying, Rob.
Yeah.
You have 2, but I don't want that one. That one doesn't need to be on the top mantle. That wouldn't need to be at the very top shelf of your bookcase. You can bump that one down and, put some other stuff around it that's, more current. That's what the Texans' job is to do over the course of the next 9 years before I'm 50. That's my goal.
All right. Well, you need to go talk to CJ and D'Amico and tell them that needs to happen. And the other thing is this, this city, we got to get, this team has got to get them to get that passion back. And I'm not going to guilt anybody like, hey, I need you guys, but just like be okay in this cynical world with a team that if they just make it to the playoffs this year, what the hell? They won 3 games last year. They won 10 games.
All right,
John, 10.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. Hey, Remember the conversation we had? When did you make me start picking like all the games and stuff? Like,
Yeah,
was it
you
week
were
4 or
one
week
off.
5?
Yeah, you said 11.
Well, I said 10 because we got to week 18 and I was like, there ain't no way in hell I can
Oh,
make this team an
you
11 win
I
team.
forgot you chickened out at the last second.
Yeah, it's like they can't. They're not going to win 11 games. Get the hell out of here. I didn't have them beating the Bengals. I don't think. I definitely didn't have them losing to the Jets. Probably didn't have them, losing some of these games down the road. The last 7-8 weeks they did. But forget all that. Here's the thing: 20 out of the last 22 years coming into this season. 20 times out of the last 22 years coming into this season, a team has gone from last to first within its own division. For you, the Texans, to complete that circle, you need the Titans to beat the Jaguars tomorrow so you can become AFC South champions. Even if that doesn't happen, man, what the Texans did this year, the fact that you have all of this football to watch tomorrow and have it mean so much for just like everything that needs to happen for the dang Pittsburgh Steelers to get into the dang playoffs as a 10-7 football team that's had 3 different quarterbacks. Like, holy crap. Are you kidding me? Like, they could be a playoff team, at the close of business tomorrow. It's that crazy of an NFL season. It needs to be remembered. And I know it will here in Houston. That's really all that matters. But what the Texans accomplished, I really don't think even the Cleveland Browns can understand it. Right? And the Cleveland Browns are a good football team this year. The Cleveland Browns won just their second road playoff game since 1969, just 3 short seasons ago when they beat the Steelers. But I don't even think like the armpits of America and in football can understand how far this city has come from Jack Easterby and Bill O'Brien being the centerpiece of conversations for 3 straight seasons to having a complete culture change the way that we've seen it. I mean, maybe that's something for the end of the season, whenever that may be, to talk about at length. But that's just incredible to me. And there's still people that are skeptics that aren't bought all the way in. And I do get it because it was that bad for 3 years here.
I mean, Shaun, I was literally thinking a couple of years ago, man, I need to go find another team. I was that angry and frustrated. The whole Easterby hijacking my owner and my franchise. And they got a shot of Cal McNair up in the press box. And I wasn't angry at the guy. This was
you
this
talking
game.
about the one time that Hannah was caught sleeping at the game?
I'm talking about in this game. They showed Cal in the press. They showed him in the press box in this game, and I thought, you know what? I'm happy for that guy. We all do stuff in our life where we screw up big time, and I don't know if I've had a Jack Easterby screw up, but that guy got it straight. He fixed it. He got rid of the guys that had the problem. He brought in D'Amico. I am 100% believing that it was him that brought in D'Amico and not Caserio that really made that happen. And you got to give Cal credit because that guy, he fixed it. He made the right moves. He made the right changes. And however we got CJ Stroud, and I don't know if we're ever going to know the full story on, which guy. Was it D'Amico? Was it Caserio? Was it the combination? Was it Cal? But they got it. They got it, and they got it right.
You may never know. I don't even know this guy's name, and maybe somebody's gonna have to write a book about it. But even Bob McNair wasn't a great football guy. He had his right hand man, and I think maybe Cal's got a right hand man, Maybe he's found that person over the course of the last, 12 to 16 months. Maybe that person is Hannah. Maybe somebody got in her ear and said, "Hey, you know what? If you guys want to own, if you guys want to be the face of an NFL football team, then you're going to have to act like it. You can't be caught sleeping in a chair during a game. You can't tank forever. You can't continue to let some individual, just suck the life out of your organization. You got to make a move here." I don't know who that person was or persons was, but I think that probably happened because the light bulb just didn't automatically go off for Cal McNair or Hannah McNair.
Well, we heard this week Andre saying he went to them and said,
Sure.
Easterby is the problem. So
I know he did. He
I
did.
mean,
I saw the interview, but you know what?
And we need to give Andre that credit because we haven't mentioned it this week, but that was a biggie.
Sure. And the way that Andre Johnson told Will Kunkel of Fox 26, the way he told that story, it's probably a lot juicier than you listening to a monotone Andre Johnson tell it on a newscast. That's probably a 1, and it probably happened at about a 10. Like Andre Johnson has about that much personality in front of a camera, and it's probably this big when there's no cameras around.
Maybe. I don't know.
I really think so. Like, I really do.
I've never seen him close, and I was around him in the locker room, and I've even seen him in line at Whole Foods one time. Mm-hmm. And Andre his pulse never gets about, he's like, it's a straight line pulse. Like he just doesn't. Yeah. So, but I'm sure it was a little bit more emphatic than just, hey, you might want to get rid of, hey, that Jack there used to be, yeah, you might want to get rid of him. No, yeah. It was definitely more than that. And for him, remember, he went on social media. We all saw that. So he went public with it too.
Oh yeah, sure. My point is here, and it doesn't really matter. They're going to get the credit. And you know what? I'm cool with giving them the credit because you're probably never really going to know. I'm just telling you. I don't think the light bulb just went off for Hannah and Cal. Somebody got in their ear, somebody got maybe in their face and was just like, this is the way it has to be.
Yeah. And
you have to look like you like your husband. You have to look like you like football. You have to talk like this. Let me help you out. I guarantee you they got coached up because they looked like anything but interested in being the face and voice of an NFL franchise during these 3 years. And I do think it was a part of a plan, but you had to listen to the plan and you had to try your best to not look like complete idiots during enacting of the plan. And so I think they bought in.
But let me just point out, you act like somebody told them, let's give that person credit. Yes, give that person credit. But I'm sure people have told, Stanos, I think it's over with the Chargers. The guy's still an idiot. He's probably been told a million times by people around him, hey, you're doing dumb stuff all the time. Same thing with David Tepper with Carolina. Same thing with what's his name? The guy that just sold the Commanders. The guy was a clown. You're telling me nobody told him that? But you know what? Cal and Hannah, they listened and they changed. And let's let's at least give them this much of the props for this.
No. Yeah, for sure. And to be honest with you, like what's cooler in the NFL than a young female, wife of a chairman, right? A young owner, and Hannah McNair, like she's good looking. How many NFL franchises have that? It looks good. Certainly sounds good. It feels good now that you've got one of the hottest quarterbacks in the entire league into the postseason. It's a great look. It's a massive turn of fortune for them. So awesome. I just hope they continue to listen to the right people, continue to make, good, sound discussions, and don't trust just anybody with major decisions, because now you've got a good solid year under your belt of knowing what it takes to be successful, knowing how much or how little you should trust the people that you've hired to do their jobs, to do their job. And you've got to build on that now. This is still a build. Okay. And that's just kind of what my hope is that they don't think this is easy now going forward. It's no, let's look a little bit more into this. Let's get more serious about it now and be really involved. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is our job. And I think it could be a fantastic thing for a long time coming. It's a wonder what having a franchise quarterback and a couple of defensive cornerstones do for an organization. And it's going to be fun watching it continue to grow.
Catch us on our midweek show. We're going to preview the Texans playoff game. Boy, I like saying the Texans playoff game. That sounds good. We got one more week, one extra bonus week, at least, of Texans football. Can't wait. We will talk to you guys again. Go tell your friends about us. Take care, everybody.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.